Hello everybody! First of all, I want to point out the fact that this is my first ever YouTube video. Did we ever think we would see Miss O'Neill on YouTube? I don't think I ever expected myself to be on YouTube, so I hope I can figure this out. I'm not the best with technology, as you guys know, so we'll see how it goes, but subscribe to my channel, like this video, leave a comment, all that stuff you guys do on YouTube anyways. I am so excited because, well, first of all, spring break is next week, so I know it's probably not our ideal version of spring break, but hopefully it's a nice week for us to relax and brings us one day closer to being all back together, so that's a positive thing. But yeah, 1 week left, and then the week is yours. Whatever you are going to do, I hope it's fun. But this week, I wanted to kind of start a new chapter because we finished chapter 9, which is all about government. You guys got so lucky, you didn't have to take a test, so another positive thing to think about. But we're starting today chapter 9, which is all about our American culture. So if you have your book with you, you can totally open it and read along with me. If you don't have your book with you, just follow along, close your eyes, imagine it in your head, all that stuff. We're going to be telling the class together again. So unfortunately, I don't have you guys in front of me to call on to read, so you're gonna have to hear me read, which I hope that's not a problem. I hope that's okay for you guys. But if you have your book, like I said, open up to page 324. Sorry, my floor is like really creaky. This is my virtual classroom. I hope you guys enjoy it. So 324, moving to new places. So this is all going to be about immigration and how people move to new places for different reasons. So you kind of already started the chapter last week when you did your immigration little project on Flipgrid. So you guys chose one of the children that immigrated, and you learned about them, where they came from, and maybe their reasons for moving and how they were feeling when they moved. So you guys kind of have like a preview already. So now we're gonna go back to the book, and you'll have one little assignment to do. So 324, sorry, I had to add that in. Moving to new places. People do not always live in the same place all their lives. Sometimes they move to another community or even another country. So some of you guys have maybe even moved to different places for different reasons. So when I was in 4th grade, I moved from one side of my town to the other. So I didn't move very far, but I ended up going to a new school because my family needed a bigger house because my brothers were older and getting bigger, so we were kind of outgrowing our space at our old house, so then we moved to a new house, but we moved in my same town. A nation of immigrants. Immigrants have been coming to the United States for hundreds of years. Many have come to find new opportunities. An opportunity is a chance to have a better way of life. Some people here hoping to find more freedoms. Some came for a better education or job. Others wanted to escape dangers in their own country. So as you can see, all of these people moved to the United States for different reasons. Some people wanted better lives. Maybe their life at their old place where they lived wasn't very good. Maybe they needed a new job, and there's a lot of job opportunities in America. Maybe their country that they lived before was dangerous, and they wanted to have a better life and a better start for their family, so they moved for that reason. So whatever the reason is, people move to America a lot of times to find a better life, or to find a life that they think they deserve, and they do deserve, right? So because they're moving to a new place and all that stuff. 325. Immigrants face new problems. In the past, immigrants to the United States faced many problems. They often had to live in crowded apartments in the older parts of big cities. They had little money for food. Some immigrants also faced prejudice. Prejudice is the unfair feeling of hate or dislike for people of a certain group, race, or religion. Immigrants were often paid less money than other workers for the same job. They also had fewer opportunities for good jobs. So these people are coming all the way to our country. And the sad thing is, a lot of times when they get there, or when they got there, they weren't treated the same way that people that lived here were. So they maybe didn't make as much money as other people. They weren't given the good jobs. They were kind of given the jobs that people didn't really want. So we know that that's not fair, and we know that that's not right. But because they came from a different place, people treated them differently, which we've talked about a lot this year, and how that's very unfair, and how people didn't really understand like who these people were, and that they're just people, right? They shouldn't be treated any different than anyone else. On to page 326. Beginning new lives. Between 1880 and 1920, millions of new immigrants arrived in the United States. Most traveled on crowded ships. They wanted the chance to become United States citizens. After they arrived, immigrants often had to wait in long lines. They had to answer many questions from immigration officers. They had to see doctors. They could enter the United States only if they passed all the tests. Most immigrants from Europe arrived at Ellis Island in New York Harbor. It was the nation's largest immigration center. Most immigrants from Asia arrived on the West Coast at Angel Island. Angel Island is located in California's San Francisco. So when these people arrived at wherever they were going, it wasn't like they could just get off the ship and go. They had to take tests, they had to go see doctors, and then when they finally got off and finally were free, then they were faced with judgment, right? Like we talked about with the prejudice. They weren't automatically given an easier life. It was still hard for them, but maybe a little bit easier, hopefully a little bit easier than their life back where they were before. 327. Can I read numbers? I don't know. 327. Building communities. Many immigrants settled in cities close to Ellis Island or Angel Island. They found jobs and met people from their home countries. Other immigrants moved to different areas of the country. Some started new communities. They often named these communities for their homelands. Germantown in Tennessee was named by the town's early German settlers. Immigration today. Today, immigrants arrive from countries all over the world. Most come from countries in Asia and Latin America. The United States government limits the number of immigrants that can enter the country each year. So, people are still coming to our country, right, for a better life and for maybe more freedoms, for education. So, America is like a melting pot, they say, because people come from all over and they have a place here, and we welcome them with open arms. On to 328. Migration in the United States. People also migrate or move within their own country. Like immigrants, many of them are looking for better opportunities. The Great Migration. Even after slavery ended, laws limited African Americans' freedoms. During the 1900s, many African Americans left rural areas in the South. They migrated to urban areas in the North and the West. They hoped to find jobs, homes, and equal rights. This movement became known as the Great Migration. African American populations grew in cities such as Detroit, Cleveland, Chicago, and New York City. So, think back to the way beginning of the year when we talked about urban, suburban, and rural. Okay, so it says many African Americans left rural areas in the South. So, what do we know about rural? We know that rural is like the country. So, they came from places that were pretty empty or maybe more country farmlands. They moved to areas that were urban, which we know as cities, right? So the cities of Detroit, Cleveland, Chicago, New York City, that's where big populations ended up. Migration continues. People still migrate to urban areas to find jobs and other opportunities. Other people migrate out of urban areas to suburban or rural towns. So people can either migrate from like the country to the city or the country to the suburbs, or if they are living in the city and they want to go to the suburbs, or if they want to go from the city all the way to the country, those are reasons that people might move. Other people migrate out of urban areas to suburban or rural towns, like I said. Often they are looking for less crowded or less expensive places to live. Since the 1970s, many people from northern parts of the United States have moved to the Sun Belt. This wide region in the southern parts of the country has a mild climate. So people are sometimes moving, like from Chicago to maybe they're moving to Florida or to Texas or somewhere that's warmer. So there's many, many reasons people move. Summary. Immigrants come to the United States looking for opportunities. People already living here sometimes migrate to other areas. So there might be many reasons for people moving. The children that we read about last week for e-learning, they might have moved because their parents got a job here, or some moved because they needed a better life here. And like I said before, I moved when I was younger because we needed a different house, a bigger house, right? We moved somewhere that could fit our family better. So there's so many reasons for people to move, but all of these reasons kind of are similar to each other because it's for personal reasons, right? So we need to think about that. And your assignment for this week is to write a letter, and if you have your book, it's question 5 on page 329, but you are writing a diary entry or a letter as if you are an early immigrant to the United States. Include details about the challenges you face. So you're pretending you're either an immigrant coming to Ellis Island or on the West Coast going to Angel Island, and you need to come up with some sort of journal entry or letter sharing and explaining how you would feel. So imagine if you traveled from Ireland, for example, and came all the way to New York City. How do you think you would feel on the boat? How do you think you would feel when you're going through all those tests and having to get doctors check you out before you're allowed to go anywhere? So I want you to think about that. Create a journal entry or a diary entry or a letter explaining how you feel, and make sure you give details like where you're coming from, where you came to, who you were with, all that stuff. Be creative with it, and I can't wait to see your guys' responses. Good luck the rest of the week. Power through. You're almost to spring break, and I will see you guys very soon.